The USBC Open Championships are almost here, and today we're going to talk about some tips and tricks on how to get to the building, on some new unique things because of the city that we're going to, along with some lane breakdown and what to expect when you get to the event and how to truly play the lanes. Quick reminder, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, helps me out a ton. You'll then get notified next time we go live. So to start the video, we're going to talk about the actual location of the event and the unique characteristics of Baton Rouge, Louisiana versus where we usually go in Reno and Las Vegas. Then after that, we're going to talk about the actual lane conditions, what to expect, how you should break down the lane, and then we'll go from there. So starting off, this year we're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in the Raising Cane's River Center, which is amazing. There better be a Cane's nearby. It's one of my favorite places. It should be everybody's favorite place, really. The place is amazing. But the interesting thing with Baton Rouge is we really can't fly into Baton Rouge. Very, very unique. So Vegas and Reno, they have airports that are very close to the bowling centers. However, Baton Rouge, they have a metropolitan airport and that's it. Looking at some prices for myself, I believe it was about $500 a ticket. And there was only 1 to 2 carriers that would actually take us there. So most people will be flying into New Orleans, which is about an hour, hour and a half away from Baton Rouge. So be ready to rent a car once you land in New Orleans. Make sure you have more of a game plan when you get there and what your plan's going to be. I know a lot of people this year are actually driving down to Baton Rouge. It is a long drive for most people across the country. However, that might be a little cheaper for you. So with that in mind, make sure to plan your trip out accordingly. If you do drive, you can bring a lot more bowling balls. If you don't drive, if you fly, I always recommend Southwest. You get 2 bags for free and they can be under 50 pounds. You can get 2 3-ball rollers of bowling balls there for free. If you take something like Delta, that'll cost you $70 extra. So make sure to keep that in mind when grabbing your tickets. Now, hotel-wise is a little interesting too. The Raising Cane's River Center is not a casino, unfortunately. So usually casino hotel prices are insanely cheap, especially when we're at South Point down in Las Vegas, or if we're in Reno for the trio of casinos that are right next to the bowling center. However, this one, we do have a couple hotels nearby. The one that USBC recommends is called the Hilton Baton Rouge Capitol Center. It is about a quarter of a mile away. It isn't too crazy of a walk. Luckily, it should be warm out in Baton Rouge, so that'll be nice. However, there really isn't a hotel connected to the River Center, so make sure you look at your hotels. Remember, USBC has a bowling vacation page where they give you a little bit of a discount if you get a hotel through them. Now, the discount isn't great. I know I got $0 off of my hotel when I went through them compared to just going through any other site. So keep that in mind when you're looking at hotels. You will have to walk just a little bit to get to the bowling center. And it is a full convention center. It isn't truly a bowling center. It's a convention center turned into a bowling center. So the layout might be a little bit wonky, might be a massive, very open-aired building. So be ready for that. I personally don't know what it'll look like. This event was down in this exact area back in 2012. I was not bowling at that time, so I don't have much to say about it. That was 13 years ago. So hopefully some people in the comments can tell us a little bit about how that was. Next, let's talk about the side events and where those will be taking place. So both team practice and the Bowler's Journal event will be taking place at All Star Lanes in Baton Rouge, which is a 15-minute drive from the convention center. So in years past, we were lucky enough where we had those events going on in the same building. However, in Baton Rouge, it's a little bit different. You're going to have to take an Uber or a rental car or some other way to get to the practice venues and get to the Bowler's Journal event. So keep that in mind when you're booking your times to be able to bowl the team practice session or the side events, which I recommend bowling both of them. I recommend the team practice and I recommend bowling the Bowler's Journal at least once. Make sure you remember that you will have to either Uber or drive or walk an absurd distance if you want to get there. And finally, let's talk about lane breakdown and some tips and tricks on what to do there. So when you're looking at what the patterns are down in Baton Rouge, they're going to be insanely difficult, very difficult lane conditions, very hard to score. So one of the most important things that you need to remember is you need to break down the lanes properly with your team. Now, what this means is that you guys start in a part of the lane, that when playing there will break down the oil to make the lanes easier for you in the future. If you don't do that, if you play the lanes how they are and they're very difficult to start, and you don't break them down correctly, they're going to stay difficult. Your score is not going to be great. The best way to boost your score is play as a team. So when you go down there, make sure you discuss with your team, make sure everybody knows where they want to play, what they want to use, and try to make the pattern as close to a house shot as possible. There are two different ways of doing this. The first way of doing this is having a lot of surface on your bowling balls, playing really far right to break down what we call the out of bounds on the right side of the lane. So because this pattern is so flat, usually when you miss your spot to the right, your ball will not hook. However, if you break down that part of the lane, then you have the ability to miss right and your ball will still hook. That is a very important thing to have. The second way to make the lanes easier is throwing plastic or urethane tighter to the head pin, basically throwing it at the 3-pin. That would push oil down lane to give you the hold that you need. This is something you can only do in practice, and unfortunately, you don't get very long for practice down at the event. I believe it's 6 or 8 minutes for both events. I think 10 minutes for team and maybe 6 minutes for doubles and singles, which is not much time, but that is a way for you to be able to build the lanes to play like a house shot where you have hold if you miss left and you have hook if you miss right. That's your overall goal. That's how you see these scores being so high from teams, is because they break them down together. So make sure you have a game plan when going down there to break them down with your team. Make sure nobody goes rogue, because all it takes is one person to go rogue for the lanes to be completely unplayable. It just takes that one person playing way too deep, way too quick with a really dull bowling ball to tear the lanes apart and destroy the oil pattern that's out there. So make sure your team knows how they're going to play, make sure you know how to play, and then stick with your game plan. A lot of people, the reason they fail in the practice session is they bail out of their plan way too quickly. They start with something, we want to break down the outside. They throw for like a minute and they realize, this isn't good. And then they move in and then it's bad. Or in the first game, they say, this isn't good, move way in, lanes get absolutely terrible. So make sure to stick with your game plan as long as you can. Come up with it beforehand. Bowling is a game of chess at the end of the day. So make sure you know what your game plan is going to be, and then you'll be good to go. But with that, that is everything I have for our tips and tricks for the USBC Open Championship. There are probably a ton of others that we could go through, but a lot of the tips and tricks we'll have to only see once people start going to the event. The event starts in very early March and runs all the way through July. So if you want the most up-to-date news on what the event has, what the oil pattern looks like, some good strategies I want to use, make sure to go check out my Discord. A link is in the description. We have a section specifically dedicated to the USBC Open Championships this year, and I'm hoping we can get a lot of conversation started about what people are bringing, what the lanes look like, and things like that. So make sure to check us out there. That's going to be hopefully one of the better sources to be able to get some knowledge on what the event is going to be, because unfortunately they put that nice little curtain up so that you can't see what the pattern actually is. Figurative curtain, by the way. They don't actually put up any curtains. They just don't tell us what the pattern is, unfortunately, and keep it hidden. With that, that is everything. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.